Terry, this is going to be an all-encompassing video. I have here an early Kikuhide razor. This is a I'm thinking 50s, it could be 40s razor. And I'm going to put a piece of Kapton tape on it. I would encourage you to buy some of this tape. It's really good stuff. It's very thin and it's wear resistant. It's easy to put on and easy to take off. It doesn't leave any kind of gunk on the razor or anything. And it does protect your spines if that's an issue. You can see it goes on really easy. Just take a pair of shears and nip off the edge at the end there. Okay, so I've got my Kikuhide, and I'm going to use this suita from Shobudani here. But I'm going to set that aside. First thing I'm going to do, you told me you have a 2000 grit stone. This is a dry stone. There's no water on it. When you use dry stones, you should rub them down really good. Make sure that there's no grit on it. And I'm going to use diagonal strokes. To set the bevel. That's the stabilizer rubbing against the stone, side of the stone there. Okay, so let's take a look at this in the microscope. See where we're at. Okay, so here you can see in my computer I have a switch that flips it from the binocular viewing to the computer viewing. Here you can see we have a scratch pattern with a 2K that begins at the edge and then travels all the way down to the base of the edge where the face of the razor is. This is the shiny part that usually is etched or beautified, highly polished. This is the bevel. It's a wider bevel is probably about a half a millimeter wide. Okay, so we have that scratch pattern. Now I'm going to do something that I don't think. Oh, let me take a photo of that. I'm going to do something that I don't think I've ever seen anybody do before. I'm going to take this razor. We have a 2000 grit scratch pattern on this razor. Now I'm going to create a second scratch pattern with this king 1000 grit. I'm a humble person. I like the kings. There's nothing wrong with them. What I'm going to do is I'm going to use those first scratch patterns. The diagonal was like this. Now I'm going to do a scratch pattern with the razor pointed this way. So it's going to be an alternate scratch pattern. And I'm going to use my index finger on the bottom underneath the razor to create a line of differential there where the scratch pattern from the shafton is going one direction and the scratch pattern for the shafton is going another direction. Okay, so I try to keep this real regular. And for sake of consistency, I'm going to do both sides. And you see I have my finger under there to I think that's going to be enough passes on the stone. So we're going to go back to the microscope, and we're going to look at this spot here, where the spot right around there, where I had my finger maintaining like an index pin might. Okay, I found it. This is it. This is where the two scratch patterns converge. It's not exactly in the middle of the blade. It's about maybe a third towards, or a third away from the heel. So this is a 1000 grit scratch pattern from the king. Notice how rough the edge is. And this is a scratch pattern from the 2000 grit Shobudani. And that does also have a rough edge. And I think if we were to look at this razor from the other side, that foil edge was probably folded over a little bit, and the light is reflecting off that edge from the other side mostly. So that's our line of convergence right there. Okay, so let's take a photo of this. Like I said, I don't think anybody's ever done this before, but that's my middle name. Okay. So we have used 2 stones so far, both synthetics. Now we're going to bring into play the suita, and I'm going to set these 2 stones aside in my other workbench. So I have a tomonaga for this suita, and what I'm going to do is, with this kikuhide, I'm going to raise it slowly with this worn out diamond plate. This is a number 400 on this side. This was a 600, but now it's worn out and it's acting more like 1,000 or a 1,200. So this is the worn out 800 portion of it, or 600 portion. It's acting more like 1,000. Okay, so we have a story there, and we'll just do, let's start with 5 passes. 1, 2, 3, and these aren't really full passes. I mean, it's the whole stone, but that's enough to get us started here. So I'm looking for that line of convergence, and I believe I zeroed in on it. That's what our razor is beginning to look like. Take an image of that. Okay, so what we had before, what looked like this, things were a lot more regular and angular, and it showed just the two different stones with the two different grits. And we've gone to this stage now. I think, you know what, I can make this bigger. Okay, I don't know if it's bigger or not. So we've gone to this stage where we have the two grit patterns, but now we have this third one that's straight on strokes that I just did with the suita. So this suita grit pattern is going to replace those other two. I think that's pretty interesting. I hope you think it is too. And this is with 5 strokes. Only on one side of the razor, so we'll do 5 on the other side, then we'll progress more. Okay, so we had 5. And we'll do 5 more on side number A. So now we have 5 strokes on each side. I'm going to have to wipe the razor off. There's a little bit of dust. I can see it in the microscope. Okay, here we are. Back to our convergence. And I think I can see, and maybe you can also, there's in focus right there, that at the edge we've lost a lot of those scratches, and we've also lost a lot of that raggedness that was part of the scratch pattern there. Here's that direction on the blade, and here's this direction. There are some of those deeper, darker 1000 grit scratches, and if we go the other direction, we're looking at the 2000 grit scratches. They are less prominent towards the edge. And as we go down towards the base of the bevel, there's still some down there. Because we're using edge leading strokes, the front of the bevel, the edge, gets most of the attention from the slurry. And the back of the bevel, or we're at the base of the bevel, gets less. So here is, obviously, these are the 1000 grit scratches at the base. I think that's very understandable. Let me take a photo of that. Now you can imagine here now how shiny the face of the razor is. And here are the remainers of the 2000 grit, which were shallower, so they wear out easier also. So we're going to go up back to the edge of the razor. This is where all the shaving is done. And you can see again that at the edge, especially on the 2000 grit side, the scratches are very shallow as far as the original 2000 grit scratches, and the suita scratches have cleaned up the edge quite a bit already, making it straighter and less ragged. So the false edge or the feather edge has been worn down quite a bit. So this is how I test the sharpening speed of a stone. It's basically the ability to remove certain scratches in a certain number of strokes. And compared with other stones, you can call one stone faster than the other, or one stone slower than the other. Of course, it's all relevant comes down to shaving at some point. So we're going to move towards that direction, the shaving direction. Okay, so I'm going to finish a group of honing strokes here, and so that's 20 total on this side A. Now on side B I'm going to do another 10 plus the previous 10 equals 20. Okay, then I'll do a series of circles. Circles helps clean up the base of the bevel towards the edge of the bevel, and that's because some of the slurry on the back stroke gathers behind at the base of the bevel and tumbles over the edge, and on the forward stroke some of the slurry gathers at the front of the edge and tumbles back towards the base. Okay, let me rinse the razor off, and we'll go back to the microscope. I think I can identify the original spot where the two scratch patterns joined here. Well, I don't think that I can. They're not there any longer. And it looks like we pretty much have our Kasumi finish the full width of the bevel now. Here's the edge, and down here there are some old scratches that are still part of the going back and forth along the edge. I don't know if I can identify where that line of convergence was now. There's no real indicator here that shows that. Okay, so we've gotten this far with 20 strokes, about 21. Actually about 40 strokes and some circles, so lose count here as I go along. Okay, that's when the conveniences of getting old. You can forget things easily. Okay, so the next thing we're going to do is rinse off this stone, and incorporate our Tomonagra into the situation here. So there is a slurry here, enough to see, but because of the friction between the two stones, the slurry will have a tendency to be a finer slurry than what was generated from the diamond nagra or the diamond plate. Okay, so here's what we're seeing now. Got a nice straight edge with a good linear profile. Here's some of those 1,000 grit scratches down here. They're not completely gone, but at the edge, which is where our main concern is when we go to shave, I think I could do more work up here towards the edge. So that Tomonagra revealed some of the darker scratches or deeper scratches because of the polishing effect. But over here, oh, this is our line of convergence, obviously, because there was scratches down here from the 1K, and over here, where the 2K was, there's really nothing. And the ones at the bottom here are going that direction, opposite of from the 1K, so okay, so I think the only, and the edge here looks quite a bit finer than it did over on the 1K side too. So let me try to park the microscope stage right here at the middle again. And we'll take up one photo here, but now I'm going to go back and we'll try to rework this edge to the final stage so we can strop it. Each razor will react to any particular stone differently. but the idea is to be flexible enough as a craftsperson to make the adjustments or meet the demands that the steel is putting on the stone. Okay, here is that point. That is a piece of lint on the razor. Okay, so we have developed a false edge. You can see it there in greater detail. And that steel is bending over towards the camera because it has a shiny crest on it. So we're going to need to remove that. And there's several ways to do it. The first, easiest one is to try stropping it off. It's a very thin, narrow piece at this stage. Stropping is the legitimate step in honing a razor. Everyone does it. And one of the reasons why they do it is to remove the false edge or a little feather edge or a little extra steel that's so hard that it just holds on to the razor as you hone it. So here, looks like we've done just what we wanted to do. We've brightened up that edge, and in doing so, we've minimized that feather edge there. I don't think it's quite perfect. And what I would do at this stage is I know we're really close to having a shave-ready edge. I would do some hand stropping on this edge. And some people are a little bit afraid of this. This is the safest way, one direction, to do hand stropping. This is the way some people will do it, like they would be stropping on a leather razor. But in either case, that's probably enough. Stropping, that's all we need. And that brought our edge very nicely up to snuff. So I think that is quite respectable, and we'll try a hanging hair test. One thing I'd like to refer you to is, not everybody can do this, but I happen to have taken a photo of a human hair, which looks like this. This is the same magnification as what we're using for the razor. So if you take that into consideration, and we're ending up with a razor that has this type of edge on it, I think we're in the good ballpark of getting a good shave out of this razor. But in any case, here's let's try to do a hanging hair test with this razor. So it is not passing. So we have to go back to the stone one more time. It's so close that you can tell by the photographic evidence these are light strokes. These are not heavy-handed. Some people would do a clear water series right now, and that would be one possibility. That looks a little cleaner to me. I don't know if it does you as the viewer, but of course I thought it looked good to begin with. But let's drop it and we'll see one more time if we can get an HHT test out of it. So that is towards the heel. We're getting these. In the middle, it's a little weak. And at the toe, I'm getting, that was like HHT3. Not really much to brag about. So my proposition is going back to the stone and doing a few strokes out of the tip is a pointed finger technique. Do a few in the center. The heel was fine. Let's see what that does. Once you've done this much work on an edge, the difference between an HHT 1 and a 5 is really just microns, portions of microns. The edge has to be so thin to cut hair back to the stone. It's not 5 or 10 or 15 or 20, it's more like 3 or 4 or 5 different, or light strokes can make a big difference. Okay, that was at the toe. Here's in the middle. It's right there. Here's at the heel. So it looks like and there's the middle again. Looks like and at the toe. Just a few extra strokes here and there. Made a big difference. I'll hold the hair. That was about a ½ an inch. That was a quarter of an inch. Sort of getting a violin going there. But that's more or less what it takes to get a shave-ready razor. And I've shaved off of literally hundreds of razors at this sharpness level. And it is the type of sharpness that gives completely comfortable edges. And I'm going to be sending this razor to you along with the stone. Plus I'm also going to be sending this Seiko razor and this Towa razor. So you can try to shave with the edges that I've been shaving off of. Okay, that's probably the longest video I've ever made. 36 minutes. But I'll say goodbye now.